Hey guys, Moose here. Welcome back to another episode of Life is Feudal Forest Village. I just finished a bunch of panicked work because I realized I didn't do something that I meant to do 2 days ago. But I got it done, and no one complained. They definitely noticed, but they didn't complain, so I guess whatever. Good enough, right? That's what matters in the end. I also, so I tweeted about well, there's two things. A little more I know last episode was a lot of work and programming talk, but I got just a little bit more and then I promise I'll talk about something else. A few weeks ago, I caught a bug that I guess made, that's the right way of saying it. I screwed up and did it wrong, and basically what I'd done was I forgot order of operations, and I needed to have parentheses between a couple things, and I didn't put them there, so it just broke the whole... It was like basic math. It was one number plus... One number is basically A minus B plus C, and the idea was B and C were supposed to be combined, and then subtracted from A. But I had no parentheses, so it was just A minus B, and then the result of that plus C, which is not the same thing. So that screwed me up, but I fixed it. And then I just realized today, we had a bug today, I was like, I had to tell someone like, hey, don't worry about it, you don't have to do this work today. Because there was a filter set on one of the sheets. It broke everything. So that was great. Kind of mad about that one, I should have been able to figure out in the moment. To be fair, there was a different... It confused me because I had just made an update to the file. And I thought my update had broken it because I didn't have a chance to test it. I had some chest pain while I was at work, so I went home early, and I did it from home, and that didn't give me enough time to test it before my coworker that I'm training needed to do the work. So, unfortunately, it didn't work. Partly because of the mistake I made, but then I fixed that, and then it was the filter that broke everything. So I should probably, like, put something in there that removes all filters from everything. And I'm gonna do that, but, like... I keep forgetting to do it, I guess? I don't know. There really isn't much of an excuse, but whatever, it's fine. Other than that, not really a lot going... Karen's in Japan. Yeah, I can talk about that a little bit. She got us, I want her to buy stuff. Like, I don't want her to spend money, but I want her to buy stuff. A little bit paradoxical request there, but... she was at some store. I actually don't know what store it was. I think it was some store at the Disneyland over there, maybe? If that's even a thing? I don't know. I'm very confused. I didn't really get the full picture, but she bought a couple shirts. She bought matching shirts for each. One for me, one for her. Which was really cool. And they're Monster Hunter Palico shirts, which I actually was looking for something like that online. Okay, that reminds me I need to tell her something. Get a Palico hoodie or 3. I forgot those were a thing. I totally forgot about those, but yeah. So apparently... So, you guys probably... I don't know if she's ever shown her face. She's definitely never shown her face on one of my streams, but I don't think she's ever... Yeah, you guys would have never seen her, so... She is... I've talked about this before. She was born in Japan, but she was... she's Filipino. And you can tell, like, looking at her, she's Filipino, not Japanese. Like, I know for some people, everyone from Asia looks the same, but they don't. You can, in my opinion, mostly tell the difference between... My weakness is Koreans and Vietnamese. I can't tell too well, but I recognize the languages. Chinese, Japanese, and Filipino I can distinguish very well. I work with a lot of people and have been around a lot of people from all three of those countries, so I'm fairly familiar with them. Language and general genetic kind of how that usually looks like. I don't know. Style, I guess, maybe is part of it. But anyway. So she's clearly not Japanese, is the point, and she's in Japan. So she, from the outside, she looks like a tourist, right? A lot of people don't realize she... I wouldn't necessarily give her enough credit to call her fluent in Japanese, but she can speak reasonably well. And she can understand most stuff, I think. I think, like, verbally she's okay, but written Japanese, she's not very good. Like, we sometimes buy food from Japanese grocers nearby, and the instructions are exclusively in Japanese. And she can read them. She can definitely read them, but it's not like a quick thing. It takes her a second, so that's why I wouldn't say she's fluent, I guess. Which I don't know if that's. I think it's fair to her. Anyway, but point is, if you look at her, you wouldn't think that she understands Japanese, even if you're in Japan. So apparently there were two guys behind her in line at this store in Japan who were like talking shit and saying like, oh, she's buying a Monster Hunter shirt, or she's buying Monster Hunter shirts. It's like, does she know? Because they were speaking in Japanese, of course, which is why I mentioned that she knows Japanese. Because they thought she was a tourist. And they kind of went the whole... They were very clearly like thinking of her differently because she's a woman. They were like, does she even know what that is? Like... Does she know what Monster Hunter is? She's probably just buying... Like, I think she said... One of the things I actually said was... Wait, what happened here? You guys didn't build it. Why can't I select it? Is it done? Oh, I think I screwed up. Yeah, I totally screwed up. Oh, I did too. Wow. I totally blew that. What happened there? Anyway, but yeah, they were being real shitheads, honestly. I wasn't there, obviously, but, like, she explained what happened, and she was laughing about it, but I'm not, like, seriously bothered by it, but I'm not happy about it. I don't like that being female just means that you're not taken seriously in gaming, in that respect, at least. I think that's... I mean, obviously, that's kind of bullshit. Did I play? I don't think I placed it. Yeah, I didn't place it. It kind of makes me mad, because she does know. She absolutely knows. She played more Monster Hunter than I did. You know, like, she was into it, big time. So I'm a little bit pissed off about that. But it's... I mean, it's pretty well documented at this point. This is an issue that gaming culture, if you want to call it that, has. I don't know if it's necessarily even fair to say that gaming culture is a contiguous culture. I think it's really genre-specific for the most part. You're gonna get a really different reaction, like... I can speak personally, like, if you go on voice chat and you're a woman, you're in a first-person shooter, you're gonna have a very unfortunate reaction from people, I think. You're gonna get a reaction that you're probably not gonna be happy about. In my opinion. But if you play, like, if we're talking, so I've been playing Final Fantasy XI recently because they're on a free, it's like a free login thing. You don't have to pay to play right now, as long as you had an account before. Which of course I did. I have since I was like 15 or something. Very long time. I've had an account for FF11 as long as it's been out, basically. It's 16 years old now. It's more than half as old as me, and I'm 31, so that's kind of crazy. Anyway, for more years than I have been, or for more than half of my life, I have had an account with Final Fantasy XI. That character kind of has been with me for half my life. It's not technically true because I had a character before that got lost and then I had to remake it, and the one that I remade is the one I have now. But that was fairly early. Anyway, that's an aside. I'll talk more about that later. But if you go into voice chat and you're a woman in an MMO, it's kind of... I mean, obviously, communities vary, right? Like, you're going to find people who are terrible and you're going to find people who are good. But I think more often than not, at least in my experiences in an MMO, you're probably just going to be treated like kind of not really any differently than anywhere else, I guess. Which is still negative, I think, for women, because they generally kind of get treated poorly by men, I think, a lot of the time. Not always. I try to treat people politely, and most of the people I surround myself with treat women politely, but it's just reality that I think if you're female, there's gonna be some interactions with men that are not ideal, to put it lightly. I think that's just a part of our culture or society that we need to be honest about. And I just feel like maybe it's not as bad in MMOs, I guess, is the way that I'd put that. Definitely still bad apples out there. I'm not going to dispute that at all, but I think if you're rolling a dice, your odds are better in an MMO than they are in a first-person shooter. And I would say probably... I feel like a real-time strategy is like a little bit similar to a first-person shooter culture, a little bit. Like, it's clearly different, but it's very much competitive. It's very much like your skill versus someone else's. It's not necessarily as team-orientated typically. I know there are team-orientated first-person shooters, but most of the time you're really looking at, even if it's a team mode like Counter-Strike, you're not really emphasizing team play in a game like that. You're much more looking at individual performance, I think, more than anything else. In my opinion. You could say I'm wrong if you'd like. I don't play Counter-Strike at this point. I did back in the day, but... to be fair, I'm not an expert. But then also, to be fair again, you have games like Overwatch now, where, yeah, okay, it is definitely a lot more team-orientated. Which is fine. That kind of game is fine too, but I think if you think of a first-person shooter, more often than not, it's going to be one of the ones that's not really team-orientated. I think that's kind of just the way that it is. For better or for worse. Even, like... I don't know, like, it's difficult to say this, because I'd say, well, yeah, I can play... Whoa, what happened? I'm out of hay. Okay, that's a problem. Like, I can go play... whatchamacallit? Man is failing me. I could go play... We're not moving hay. That's probably fine. Where are you moving the leather? Really? You're putting it out there? That's weird. That's probably more where I want it. I could go play Rainbow Six right now, and you could definitely... honestly, like, that probably should be considered a team game, but you can totally play it like it's not a team game, and that's not really going to hurt you that much, in my opinion. Not at my level of play anyway, which you could argue like, oh, well, you're just a scrub. If you were actually good, it would matter. And yeah, probably true, but I think most people probably play kind of like I do. They're probably scrubs. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So, you know, I don't know. I just don't see most first-person shooters, even when they have team-based combat, as being very team-orientated. I just don't... They don't play that way. Not like, I guess, in MMO, you're more likely, like, you really do have to work together to accomplish whatever goal it is. It's not as much about individual performance, but then people, like, if you don't produce enough damage or whatever, people will use that as like a, oh, you suck, therefore get out, or I'm gonna yell at you. People are gonna act that way. We're running out of flour, wow. It's crazy. Alright, well, like, what if you guys just made bread? you know what? Let's just leave it. I'm not super worried about this right now. We might want to make another windmill, but we don't really have room for it, to be honest. I could put one right here. You know what? Maybe we should... I feel like 2's enough. What if I make one of these... One of each goes to bread. That's probably fine, right? Alright. I don't want to screw with this. This scares me. I always forget about hay. I'm glad I saw the icon this time. I caught it, but what are you gonna do? But yeah, I don't know, like... I haven't really said anything of consequence here. I think we all pretty much generally understood the problem, and I think any reasonable person who's played a number of different games and partook in a number of different communities would agree that, you know, women probably get a better shake in more team-orientated games where you kind of have to work with people. Where, you know what, I would say where there's potentially consequences for acting like a shithead. Because in Counter-Strike, you just go to another server. If people get pissed at you, you get banned, you move on. If you get, like, I've seen people get, like, blackballed or whatever the word is for it in MMOs where, like, I remember back on, back in my days in Final Fantasy XI when I played an unhealthy amount of the game that negatively impacted my grades. Like, I knew who was an idiot on the server. Like, there were people who I knew were shitheads. And you know, they had a reputation. People knew it. Like, people talked. Because you're not jumping, you weren't jumping server to server at that point. It was like $25 to change servers, and you could only do it like once every few months or something. So it's not like you could just like run away from your reputation. I knew who was a shithead. Even in Final Fantasy XIV, later on, I also knew who was a shithead. I knew less people because I generally kept myself, but in my group, I absolutely knew which people could be trusted and which ones were assholes, for lack of a better way of putting it. So, I don't think you ever get that kind of... I mean, you learn things about people in first-person shooters, but typically the only people that you actually know are decent people because everyone else, the people who bounce from server to server, those are the assholes who get banned periodically. So you have like 5 people that you know and you play with, and everyone else that joins the server is generally a D-bag a lot of the time. And that's kind of more what I'm used to when I look at a first-person shooter, I guess. Fair or not, that's what I'm used to. I'm trying to think of other genres that have multiplayer. I'd say MOBAs, generally, there are no good people. Male or female doesn't really enter into it. Everyone hates everyone. That's just kind of how MOBAs work. They're infuriating in every sense of the word. That's like the only time I've ever stopped playing a game for my own health was League of Legends. I was pretty okay at League. I wasn't good. I didn't like playing ranked, but you know, I think I was decent. I could kind of play anything and contribute effectively to the team most of the time. But I would get so fucking mad about that game. I would get so angry that I had to stop. I couldn't keep I just couldn't keep playing. It was unreasonable. I was feeling myself become a worse person. And I think PUBG did that to me too. There's a few games that did that, for sure. I kind of have been having an itch lately to go, like, play Fortnite. Not because I want to play Fortnite, but because I kind of liked what PUBG gave me, the feeling of winning. But I also know at the same time that I really hate dying when I feel like it's bullshit. And I almost always feel like it's bullshit because that's how it feels to me. Because there's always going to be people better than me, and I hate it. So I sort of feel like maybe I shouldn't play that. And the main thing stopping me right now is basically the fact that it's not on Steam. It's got its own launcher thing and everything. Yet another one of those games, I'm just like, nah, I'm good. I'm not going to play that. I have no desire to touch that shit. Not with a 10-foot pole. You're going to make me install your own launcher? I mean, even Ubisoft, that's a tough sell, and they're like a significant company. They're also terrible at making stable products of any kind, but that's a whole different issue. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, you can always come by twitch.tv/electronicmoose, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, 6 to 8 p.m. PST, 9 to 11 p.m. EST. Check out our stream if you like. If not, thanks for watching on YouTube all the same, and I will see you next time. Take care.